The Valorian Empire had been exploring space for 300 years. They had visited thousands of planets and studied hundreds of different creatures. Their scientists thought they knew everything about predators and prey. They believed they could look at any animal and know immediately if it was a hunter or something that got hunted. When their ship called the Eternal Watcher entered the solar system in 2247, Commander Zethus expected to find nothing special. He stood in front of a large screen showing the third planet from the sun. The planet was blue and green, covered with oceans and forests. His sensors told him thousands of different species lived there. Zethus had 4 eyes on stalks that moved around his head. His body looked like a giant insect wearing metal armor. He had been a commander for 20 years and visited 40 different planets. He felt confident he understood how nature worked. "Commander, you need to see this right now," said Vrax, a younger member of the science team. His voice shook with excitement. The screen changed to show a huge animal with golden fur around its head. The creature had massive muscles, sharp teeth as long as fingers, and claws that could tear through flesh easily. "This is the planet's main predator," Vrax continued. "The locals call it a lion. Look at those weapons. Look at that power. This creature is clearly the strongest species on the planet." Zethus nodded slowly. Everything about the lion fit perfectly with what they had learned over centuries of research. Big muscles, natural weapons, hunting behavior. They had seen similar animals on 17 other worlds. This was exactly what a top predator should look like. "What about these creatures?" Zethus pointed to another image on the screen. This one showed a much smaller animal standing on 2 legs. It had no claws at all. Its teeth were tiny and flat. Its skin looked soft and easy to cut. "Those are humans," Vrax said, waving one of his limbs dismissively. "They appear to be prey animals that somehow learned to think a little bit. They built some structures and even primitive spacecraft, but they are clearly making up for being weak. Look at them. No claws, no fangs, no thick skin or armor. They could never compete with real predators." The Valorian team spent 3 weeks watching Earth from high above. They saw lions running across grasslands, chasing smaller animals and killing them with explosive speed and power. They watched humans staying inside their cities, surrounded by tall walls and metal barriers. To the Valorians, the answer seemed obvious. Humans were clever prey, nothing more. "Set up a meeting," Zethus ordered his crew. "We will talk to both species, but we should focus on the lions. If we want good relations with this planet, we need to work with whoever is really in charge." What the Valorians did not understand was that they were making the biggest mistake in their empire's long history. They did not know that those walls around human cities were not built to keep dangerous things out. The walls were built to keep humans in, to keep them organized and peaceful. They did not understand that intelligence was not just a way to make up for being weak. Intelligence was the most dangerous weapon that evolution had ever created. The Eternal Watcher slowly descended toward Earth. Zethus felt sure about his conclusions. After all, the Valorian Empire had studied predators for 3 centuries and never been wrong before. He saw no reason to think this time would be any different. But down on Earth's surface, at a military base called United Earth Space Command, Admiral Kate Morrison watched the alien ship coming closer. She felt both curious and careful. Next to her stood Lieutenant Danny Hayes, who was checking their defense systems. Kate was 50 years old, with gray hair pulled back in a tight style. She had fought in 3 wars and made peace after all of them. She knew what humans were capable of when threatened. "Should we be worried, Admiral?" Danny asked. He was younger, only 30, with the nervous energy of someone who had never met aliens before. Kate thought about human history. She thought about wars that killed millions. She thought about how humans had climbed from living in caves to traveling between stars. She thought about what humans had done to every other large predator on Earth. Humans had not beaten them through strength. Humans won through never giving up, through thinking ahead, and through a willingness to do whatever it took to survive. "Let's see what they want first," Kate said in a calm voice. "But keep our fleet ready to launch, just in case they think being nice means we are weak." The alien ship landed in a field outside Geneva, Switzerland. It was massive, 3 times bigger than any human spacecraft. The metal was a strange purple color that seemed to shift in the sunlight. A door opened in the side, and a ramp extended to the ground. Commander Zethus walked down first, followed by 5 other Valorians. They wore decorated armor that made clicking sounds as they moved. Their eye stalks swiveled around, taking in everything. To humans watching, they looked like giant insects, but intelligent ones. A human delegation waited for them. Besides Kate Morrison, there was Secretary General Carlos Mendoza, who spoke for Earth's government. Dr. Lisa Chen, Earth's best alien life scientist, stood next to General Frank Pierce, who commanded all of Earth's military forces. Carlos stepped forward with his hand extended, a human gesture of peace. Zethus looked at the hand for a moment, before extending one of his own limbs to touch it briefly. The translator devices both sides wore began working, turning clicks and whistles into English and English into Valorian language. "Welcome to Earth," Carlos said warmly. "We are honored to meet you." "We come in peace," Zethus replied. His translated voice sounded flat and mechanical. "We wish to establish good relations with your world." They moved inside a building that humans had prepared for the meeting. The room had chairs for humans and special platforms for Valorians, who did not sit the same way. Once everyone was settled, Zethus got straight to the point. "Our protocols require us to work primarily with a planet's dominant species," Zethus explained. "We would like to arrange a meeting with representatives of the lion prides. Can you help us contact them?" Silence filled the room. The humans looked at each other with confused expressions. Kate Morrison's eyes narrowed slightly. "I'm sorry," Carlos said slowly, carefully. "Did you just ask to negotiate with lions?" "Of course," Zethus said, seeming surprised by the question. "They are your planet's apex predators. While we respect what your species has accomplished despite your obvious limitations, proper procedure requires us to deal with those at the top of the food chain." Dr. Lisa Chen leaned forward in her chair. Her scientific curiosity was stronger than her diplomatic training. "Commander, what makes you think lions are our dominant species?" Vrax, who had come with Zethus, pulled up videos on a portable display. The videos showed lions hunting, fighting other lions, and controlling territory. "The evidence is clear," Vrax said confidently. "Powerful muscles, natural weapons, pack hunting, territorial dominance. These are all signs of an apex predator. Your species, while intelligent, lacks any of these physical advantages." General Frank Pierce let out a short laugh before catching himself and stopping. Kate Morrison's face stayed neutral, but something dangerous flickered behind her eyes. She had seen that look on soldiers before battle. "Commander Zethus," Kate said in a controlled voice, "I think there has been a serious misunderstanding about how evolution works on Earth. Can I ask how many worlds you have surveyed?" "Thousands," Zethus said with clear pride in his voice. "And in every single case, the apex predator is easy to identify by physical features." "Then let me teach you about Earth," Kate continued. She spoke slowly, making sure every word was clear. "Physical strength is not the only way to become an apex predator. Intelligence works just as well. Better, actually. Humans are not prey species that got lucky. We are pursuit predators who evolved the most dangerous hunting tool in all of nature. We learn to imagine." Kate gestured to Lieutenant Danny Hayes, who began showing images on the large screen at the front of the room. The first images showed early humans barely different from apes walking across African plains. They carried pointed sticks and sharp rocks. "We did not outrun our prey," Kate explained, her voice steady and clear. "We could not overpower them either. Instead, we outlasted them. We tracked animals for days across open ground. We followed them until they collapsed from pure exhaustion. We imagined where they would go before they went there. We made weapons, developed tactics, and planned strategies. Every large predator on our planet learned to fear us, not because we were stronger, but because we were more dangerous." The screen showed more images now. Humans hunting massive woolly mammoths, humans with spears bringing down giant bears, humans tracking deer through snow, following footprints that no other animal could read. Zethus shifted uncomfortably on his platform. His eye stalks drooped slightly. "But your physical form," he started to say, "is built for endurance and tool use," Dr. Lisa Chen interrupted him. She stood up and walked to the screen. Humans can run longer than almost any animal on Earth. Our hands can make weapons. Our brains can plan attacks that take weeks or months to complete. Commander, do you know why lions live in protected reserves now? Reserves? Frax asked, his translator making the words sound like a question. Protected areas where we allow them to exist, Lisa said flatly. Because if we did not protect them, they would be extinct. Just like we drove extinct the saber-toothed cats, the cave bears, the dire wolves, and dozens of other apex predators. Not because we wanted to kill them all, but because any predator that competed with humans for food or territory lost. Every single time, she pulled up more data on the screen. Charts showing animal populations over thousands of years. Every graph showed the same pattern. When humans arrived in a new area, the large predators started disappearing within a few generations. The Valorians' eye stalks moved nervously, swiveling to look at each other, and then back at the humans. The implications of what they were hearing began to sink in slowly. Carlos Mendoza added his voice to the discussion. Commander, you said you wanted to work with the apex predators of Earth. You are already talking to them. We have never been prey. We have been the hunters since we first learned to throw rocks and sharpen sticks. The only thing that changed over time is that we got much, much better at it. Zethus looked at the data again with new understanding. He saw the cities differently now. They were not hiding places where weak creatures sheltered from danger. They were fortresses that humans built because they no longer needed to hunt for food every day. The technology was not compensation for weakness. It was evolution continuing in a new way. If you are truly the apex species, Zethus said slowly, thinking through each word, then why do you show such care to the lions in your nature preserves? Why protect them at all? Kate Morrison smiled, but her eyes remained cold and serious. Because we learned something that perhaps your empire has not discovered yet. Being the apex predator means having the responsibility to protect what we once hunted. We are dangerous, Commander. So dangerous that we had to consciously decide to stop being dangerous. That should frighten you more than any claws or fangs ever could. The room fell silent for a long moment. Zethus felt something he had not experienced in many years of space exploration. For the first time, he wondered if he might be sitting across from something more dangerous than he could handle. Frax spoke up nervously. But you seem so peaceful. You invited us here with friendship. You are offering cooperation. General Frank Pierce decided it was his turn to speak. He was a large man with scars on his hands from old battles. We are peaceful because we choose to be peaceful. There is a difference between cannot hurt you and will not hurt you. We definitely fall into the second category. He pulled up images of human cities destroyed by war, buildings reduced to rubble, entire landscapes poisoned and dead. This is what happens when humans fight each other. We have weapons that could destroy all life on this planet. We built them. We tested them. We used them twice on our own cities, hundreds of thousands dead in seconds, and the only reason we have not used them again is because we decided not to. Dr. Lisa Chen added more information. Humans are persistence hunters, Commander. Do you know what that means? It means we do not give up, ever. When we decide something needs to be done, we keep working on it until it is finished. For thousands of years, we decided that hunting and war were what needed to be done. Recently, we decided that peace and science were more important. But the ability to hunt, to track, to kill, that is still inside us. It never goes away. She showed videos of human athletes running marathons, races that lasted over 2 hours. This is what we do for fun now. We run until our bodies want to stop, and then we keep running anyway. That same drive that let us chase animals to death over 100,000 years ago still exists. We just pointed it in a different direction. Carlos Mendoza could see that the Valorians were becoming frightened. He decided to offer some reassurance. Commander Zethus, please understand we are not threatening you. We want peace. We want friendship. We want to join the galactic community and learn from species like yours. But we need you to understand what you are dealing with. Humans can be your greatest allies or your worst enemies. We are incredibly loyal to our friends and absolutely ruthless to our enemies. We value cooperation and mutual benefit, but we also have long memories and we do not forgive existential threats easily. Zethus processed all of this information. His training had not prepared him for this situation. In 300 years, the Valorian Empire had met hundreds of species. They fell into clear categories: predators, prey, or something in between. Humans seemed to be predators who had somehow become civilized while keeping all their dangerous instincts intact. How do we know you will not turn those instincts against us? Zethus asked directly. Kate Morrison leaned back in her chair. She thought carefully before answering. Because it benefits us more to be your friends than your enemies. Humans are practical above all else. War is expensive, destructive, and wasteful. Peace allows trade, cultural exchange, and mutual growth. We spent 10,000 years learning that lesson the hard way. We fought wars that killed millions for reasons that seem stupid now. We destroyed cities and poisoned land for temporary advantages. Eventually, we learned that cooperation beats competition almost every time. She paused and then continued. But here is what you need to understand. We learned that lesson through experience, not because someone taught us. We know exactly how bad war can be, because we have done it to ourselves repeatedly. That knowledge makes us very, very motivated to avoid war. At the same time, it makes us very, very good at war if it becomes necessary. General Frank Pierce added one more point. The Valorian Empire has been peaceful for how long? 1,000 years? More? You have forgotten what real war looks like. Humans have not. We stopped fighting major wars only 80 years ago. The knowledge, the tactics, the weapons, they are all still here. We remember. That makes us either the best peacekeepers you could ask for, or the worst enemy you could imagine. Your choice which one we become. Zethus felt a chill run through his body despite the comfortable temperature in the room. These creatures were offering friendship, while simultaneously making it clear what would happen if that friendship was betrayed. It was a very effective negotiating position. Brax asked a question that Zethus had been wondering about. Why are you telling us all of this? Would it not be smarter to hide your dangerous nature until we trusted you? Kate Morrison actually laughed at that question. Because hiding it would be stupid and impossible. You are going to study our history anyway. You will see the wars, the weapons, and the violence. Better that we explain it honestly now than have you discover it later and feel betrayed. Humans value honesty, especially with potential allies. We are telling you exactly what we are. Apex predators who chose civilization over savagery. Now you get to decide if you want to be friends with us or not. Carlos Mendoza stood up, indicating the meeting was coming to an end. Commander Zethus, take all the time you need to make your decision. Study our history. Talk to your government. We are not going anywhere. Earth will be here whenever you are ready to talk again. We hope that you will see us as valuable potential allies rather than threats. Commander Zethus spent 3 days thinking about everything the humans had told him. He reviewed all the data his ship had collected about Earth. He watched videos of human history, seeing wars and violence that shocked him, but he also saw art, music, science, and compassion. Humans were complicated in a way that confused him. Finally, he called a meeting with his senior staff on the Eternal Watcher. They gathered in the ship's main planning room, a circular space with screens covering the walls. They could be lying, Vrax suggested hopefully. Maybe they are exaggerating their abilities to seem more impressive than they really are. Why would a prey species lie about being predators? Countered Krell, one of the older analysts. Usually species want to appear less threatening to avoid conflict, not more threatening. Zethus drummed his front limbs on the console, a nervous habit. We need proof. Real evidence of their claims. I want to arrange a demonstration. If humans are truly apex predators like they say, they should be able to prove it. The request went through diplomatic channels. When Admiral Kate Morrison received it, she smiled in a way that made Secretary General Carlos Mendoza nervous. Are you sure about this? Carlos asked her privately in her office. What if something goes wrong? They need to understand what we are, Kate replied calmly. Better they learn now under controlled conditions than later when the stakes might be higher. Besides, this will be educational for them. The demonstration was scheduled for 3 days later in the Colorado wilderness, far from any cities or towns. The Valorian delegation arrived in their observation shuttle, hovering about 100 feet above a designated clearing. They had been told that 2 human volunteers would demonstrate hunting abilities against local wildlife without using modern weapons. No technology at all? Zethus asked with doubt in his translated voice. Just their natural abilities? Just what humans have been using for 100,000 years, Kate confirmed over the communication link. 2 humans emerged from the tree line at the edge of the clearing. One was Jake Cooper, a survival expert who had spent 20 years living in wilderness areas and teaching others how to survive. The other was Megan Stone, an anthropologist who studied how prehistoric humans had hunted. Both wore simple clothing made from animal skins and carried only primitive tools. Jake had a wooden spear with a stone point. Megan carried a simple bow made from wood and animal sinew, plus a knife made from sharp black volcanic glass. Your target is in those woods, Kate said, pointing toward the forest. An elk, large, fast, and very alert. Good luck. The Valorians watched through their advanced sensors as Jake and Megan studied the ground carefully. They were looking at tracks that were invisible to alien eyes. Small disturbances in the dirt, broken twigs, and scattered droppings told them a story about where the elk had gone and when. The two humans moved quietly through the forest, communicating with tiny hand gestures rather than words. There was no rushing, no dramatic chase. Instead, they moved with careful, methodical patience that seemed almost boring to watch. "This is your demonstration?" Vrax asked with disappointment in his voice after 30 minutes. "They are just walking slowly. Watch and learn," Kate said simply from the observation center back at base. 1 hour passed, then 2, then 3. Jake and Megan continued tracking the elk through the forest. The Valorians grew restless and bored, but the humans never wavered or seemed tired. They read the forest like a book, noticing things that advanced alien sensors could barely detect. When they finally spotted their prey, they did not immediately attack. The elk was a male, large and strong, with impressive antlers. It was eating grass in a small meadow, completely unaware it was being hunted. Instead of charging, Megan circled around to get downwind so the elk could not smell her. Jake stayed in position, waiting patiently. They used the terrain to their advantage, slowly pushing the elk toward an area filled with rocks where its speed would not help it escape. When the moment finally came, it was not dramatic or exciting. Megan's arrow hit the elk's back leg, making it limp but not killing it. The elk panicked and ran, crashing through the forest. Then the real hunt began. Jake and Megan followed at a steady jog. They were not trying to catch the elk immediately. They were just maintaining pursuit, never letting it rest. The elk would sprint ahead, then stop to breathe heavily, its sides heaving with exhaustion. But every time it stopped, the humans would appear again, jogging steadily, never stopping, never resting. "Why does the prey not escape?" Zethus asked, confused. "It is clearly faster than the humans." "It is faster in short bursts," General Frank Pierce explained from his monitoring station. "But humans do not need to be fast. We are endurance predators. That elk can sprint at 30 miles per hour, but it can only maintain that speed for a few minutes. Humans can jog at 6 miles per hour for hours and hours. Watch the elk's breathing. It is panicking, exhausting itself. The humans look barely tired. The 4th hour arrived. The elk was stumbling now, its tongue hanging out, eyes wide with exhaustion and terror. Its injured leg was not healing because it could not stop to rest. Jake and Megan continued their steady pace, walking now, not even jogging anymore. The elk tried to run again, managed to go about 50 yards, and collapsed onto its side. Jake approached carefully with his spear ready, moving slowly and cautiously. The kill was quick and professional. He drove the spear into the elk's heart, ending its suffering in seconds. Then he knelt beside it and placed his hand on its side in what looked like a gesture of respect and gratitude. Through the video feed, Zethus watched in silence. The humans had not overpowered their prey with strength. They had not caught it with speed. They had simply refused to stop chasing it. They had imagined where it would go, predicted its path, and pursued it until its own body failed it. This is how humans hunted before they invented advanced weapons. Dr. Lisa Chen's voice came through the communication system. "Before spears, before arrows, we ran prey to death. Our ancestors in Africa would start tracking at sunrise and finish the kill at sunset. No other predator on Earth can do this. Lions sprint for a minute and give up. Wolves hunt in packs but abandon chases that take too long. Humans alone combine intelligence, endurance, and the absolute refusal to quit." On the ground, Jake and Megan were already processing the elk, using techniques passed down through thousands of generations. They worked efficiently, wasting nothing, showing the respect that successful predators give to worthy prey. They removed the hide carefully, separated the meat, and even saved the bones and antlers for tools. Vrax spoke quietly, almost whispering. "They broke it mentally before they ever touched it physically." "Yes," Kate confirmed. The elk knew it was being hunted, knew it could not escape no matter how fast it ran. That is what human pursuit predation does. It is not just physical exhaustion. It is psychological terror. Prey animals on Earth evolved to fear humans specifically. We are the monster that does not stop, the nightmare that keeps coming no matter what you do. Zethus felt something he had not experienced in his decades of space exploration, a cold, clear understanding of what it meant to be prey, not to a creature of claws and fangs that killed quickly, but to a mind that could outlast you, outthink you, and refuse to give up no matter how long it took. "This is what you do without any technology?" he asked quietly. "This is what we did for most of our existence," Kate replied. "Technology just made us more efficient at killing. But the instinct? The ability to track, predict, pursue, and never stop? That is not technology, Commander. That is human nature. That is what we are at our core." The demonstration ended with Jake and Megan offering to share the meat with the Valorian observation team, a gesture of hospitality and friendship. But as the Valorians accepted the food, they realized something important. They were not dining with fellow civilized beings who happened to have a violent past. They were having a meal with predators who had simply chosen to be civilized. There was a significant and frightening difference between those two things. Zethus could not stop thinking about the elk's eyes, the terror and exhaustion he had seen through the sensors. The animal had known it was going to die long before the actual killing happened. It had run until it could not run anymore, and the humans had just kept coming, patient and unstoppable. Commander Zethus spent the entire night reviewing everything the Valorian Empire knew about predator species across the galaxy. The data was extensive, collected over 300 years and thousands of worlds. The patterns were always the same. Physical apex predators could be identified by their strength, speed, natural weapons, and aggressive behavior. The Valorian classification system had worked perfectly on every planet they had ever visited, until Earth. At dawn, Zethus requested another meeting with the human delegation. This time the setting was smaller and more private, just a conference room in the Earth Embassy building. Kate Morrison arrived with Dr. Lisa Chen and a new person Zethus had not met before, Professor Henry Cole, who studied military history. "Commander," Kate greeted him with a warm smile. "I hope yesterday's demonstration was educational." "Disturbing would be a more accurate word," Zethus replied honestly. His translator made his voice sound tired. "I have been reviewing your planet's history through the night. The violence in your past is extensive and shocking. Humans are very good at violence," Professor Henry Cole said bluntly, not softening his words at all. "It is not something we are particularly proud of, but it is the truth. Do you want to know what really makes us apex predators, Commander? What makes us different from every other hunter in the galaxy?" Zethus gestured with his limbs for Henry to continue speaking. Henry pulled up a long timeline on the room's display screen. It showed thousands of years of human history, marked with countless red dots representing wars and conflicts. Other predators fight for food, territory, and mates. Humans fight for those things too, but we also fight for ideas, concepts that exist only in our minds. We have killed millions of each other over invisible lines drawn on maps, over whose imaginary god is the real one, over economic theories and political philosophies. We do not just hunt for survival, Commander. We hunt because we can imagine a reason to hunt. The timeline zoomed in on a period labeled World War II. The screen filled with images of destroyed cities, massive armies, and weapons that seemed designed only for killing as many people as possible in the shortest time. "World War II, Henry said, his voice flat and factual. 60 million human beings dead in just 6 years. We built entire factories whose only purpose was producing weapons to kill other humans. We invented bombs that could destroy entire cities in a single explosion, and we used them. We dropped 2 atomic bombs on cities full of civilians. Hundreds of thousands died almost instantly." Zethus felt his sensory stalks recoil backward in shock. "You killed 60 million of your own species? What could possibly justify such violence? Territory, ideology, revenge, fear," Kate answered calmly. "That is what Professor Cole is trying to explain to you. We are not just predators. We are pursuit predators with imagination, tool-making ability, and a capacity for organized violence that has no equal in the galaxy as far as we know. Humans are persistence hunters who never give up, and we can imagine reasons to hunt that no other species would even understand." Dr. Lisa Chen added more information. "Commander, do you know what humans did when we ran out of large animals to hunt for food? We started hunting each other. For thousands of years, our greatest predator was ourselves. We competed with each other more fiercely than we ever competed with lions or bears. We only stopped relatively recently, and even now we struggle with those instincts." Zethus tried to process this information. His mind was having difficulty accepting it. "Your species is a threat to itself?" "We were," Kate corrected him carefully. "We have mostly grown past that stage of our development. Mostly. But the capability remains inside us. Commander, You need to understand something very important. When you first arrived at Earth, you asked to negotiate with lions because you thought they were the apex predators. Do you know where lions originally came from? From evolution, Zethus began to answer. From Africa, Kate interrupted him. The same continent where humans evolved. We shared the same territory with lions for millions of years. We were smaller than them, weaker and slower. By all of your metrics and measurements, we should not have survived. But we did survive. And we did not just barely survive, we thrived. We spread to every continent on the planet, every climate zone, every type of environment. We crossed oceans on simple wooden rafts. We survived ice ages that killed countless other species. We endured droughts that lasted decades. And everywhere humans went, the large predators started dying out. Henry brought up maps on the screen showing human migration patterns over tens of thousands of years. Overlaid on the same maps were extinction events for large animals. The correlation was impossible to ignore or deny. North America lost its mammoths, giant ground sloths, and saber-toothed cats within 1,000 years of humans arriving there, Henry explained, pointing at the data. Australia lost most of its megafauna. South America, Europe, and Asia all show the same pattern. The large animals disappear shortly after humans show up. Were we deliberately hunting them all to extinction? Probably not in most cases, but we were so effective at being apex predators that we could not help ourselves. We competed with them for food and territory, and they lost every single time. Zethus studied the data with a growing sense of horror. You are telling me that your species is essentially an extinction event for other large predators? We can be, Kate said carefully, choosing her words with precision. If we choose to be. But here is what your empire needs to understand about humans. We are also the only species on our planet that recognized what we were doing and consciously decided to stop. We created conservation programs to protect endangered animals. We brought species back from the edge of extinction. We now protect our former competitors and prey because we decided their continued existence was more valuable than their deaths. That is supposed to make me feel better? Zethus asked with obvious skepticism in his voice. No, Kate said flatly and honestly. It is supposed to inform you about reality. Commander, the Valorian Empire found Earth at a unique and unusual moment in human history. We have achieved something close to global unity. We have turned our predatory instincts away from conquest and destruction and toward exploration and construction. We have chosen civilization over savagery, but that choice is not permanent or guaranteed. It is a decision we make every single day, and if something were to truly threaten humanity, really threaten our survival, that thin layer of civilization could crack and disappear very quickly. Professor Henry leaned forward, his expression serious. You have surveyed thousands of species across hundreds of worlds, Commander. Have any of them developed weapons capable of sterilizing their entire planet's surface and making it completely uninhabitable? No, Zethus admitted quietly. None have. We have, Henry said simply. Multiple types of such weapons. Nuclear weapons that create explosions as hot as the sun. Biological weapons that could create plagues killing billions. Chemical weapons that poison the air and water. We built all of these things to use against each other. Against our own species. We still have thousands of these weapons stored away, and the only thing preventing us from using them is our collective decision not to. That is the fundamental difference between humans and every other predator you have encountered. We are apex predators who gained the power to destroy our own world, and consciously chose not to use that power. The room fell into a heavy silence. Zethus felt the weight of that statement pressing down on him. These beings possessed the capability and historical willingness to make their own planet uninhabitable, and they had chosen restraint instead. That level of self-control seemed almost unnatural for a predator species. 3 months passed before another Valorian ship arrived at Earth. This one was much larger than the Eternal Watcher, a flagship carrying members of the Valorian Imperial Council. Commander Zethus had sent his full report back to the home world, complete with all the historical data, the hunting demonstration recordings, and detailed analysis of human capabilities. The response from the capital had been mixed and confused. Some council members dismissed human claims as exaggeration and propaganda. Others urged extreme caution and suggested avoiding Earth entirely. The debate ended when Senior Counselor Thrain, the Empire's chief diplomat and most experienced negotiator, decided to visit Earth personally. If the Valorians had truly misunderstood humanity's nature so completely, the implications were too significant to ignore or delegate to junior officers. The state dinner was held at the United Nations headquarters in New York City. The human delegation was much larger this time, including representatives from every major nation and cultural group on Earth. Admiral Kate Morrison attended, along with Secretary General Carlos Mendoza, but they were now joined by President Claire Bennett of the North American Union, Premier Liu Wei of the Asian Alliance, and Chancellor Okonkwo of the African Federation. The Valorians arrived wearing their most elaborate ceremonial armor, decorated with metals and crystals that represented their long history, but there was a noticeable change in how they carried themselves. The casual dismissiveness from their first visit was completely gone, replaced by careful respect and obvious caution. Senior Counselor Thrain was older than the other Valorians, with eye stalks that moved more slowly and deliberately. He had been a diplomat for 40 years and negotiated treaties with 70 different species. He addressed the assembled humans through the translation system, speaking slowly to ensure clarity. The Valorian Empire has existed for 8,000 of your Earth years, Thrain began. In that time, we have made first contact with 417 sentient species across the galaxy. Never once in our entire history have we so fundamentally and completely misunderstood a civilization's basic nature. This is both embarrassing and concerning for us. President Claire Bennett responded with grace and diplomacy. Counselor, our two species evolved under very different circumstances and followed different evolutionary paths. Your initial error was understandable given your past experiences. We do not take offense or hold any resentment. Your generosity and understanding are noted and appreciated, Thrain said formally. However, my government must ask direct and potentially uncomfortable questions. If humanity is as dangerous as Commander Zethus's reports indicate, and if your capacity for violence is as extensive as your own historians confirm, why should the Valorian Empire believe you truly seek peaceful coexistence? What guarantees can you offer? The question hung in the air like a weight. Every human representative had known this question would come eventually. They had prepared their answer carefully. Dr. Lisa Chen stood up to respond first. Counselor, may I share something about human psychology and evolution? We are social pack hunters. Throughout our entire evolutionary history, success depended absolutely on cooperation with other humans. Humans who worked together effectively survived and had children. Those who fought against their own group died out without passing on their genes. Yes, we are capable of incredible violence and destruction, but we are equally capable of incredible compassion, cooperation, and loyalty, especially toward those we consider part of our pack or tribe. She gestured broadly to the diverse group of human representatives filling the room. These people here represent dozens of different nations, hundreds of distinct cultures, thousands of languages and belief systems. 1,000 years ago, we would have been bitter enemies fighting wars against each other. 500 years ago, we would have been suspicious rivals. Today, we are allies and friends working toward common goals, not because we stopped being human, but because we consciously expanded our definition of who belongs to our pack. We went from families to tribes to nations to our entire species. We are now proposing to expand that definition one more time, to include other sentient beings like yourselves. Premier Liu Wei added his perspective. The Valorian Empire spans hundreds of worlds and dozens of species if our information is correct. You have maintained relative peace across your territory for thousands of years. Humanity wants to learn from that achievement. We want partnership, trade, cultural exchange, and shared knowledge. We want to be part of something larger and more significant than just ourselves and our single planet. And if conflicts arise, Thrain asked directly, if our interests diverge or compete, if disagreements occur that cannot be easily resolved, General Frank Pierce, who had been sitting quietly until now, decided to speak. Then we negotiate in good faith. We compromise where possible. We find creative solutions that benefit both sides. That is what civilization means, Counselor. Humans spent most of our history solving disputes through violence and warfare. We learned, very painfully and slowly over thousands of years, that violence is actually the least effective solution to most problems. It is also the most costly approach in terms of lives, resources, and long-term consequences. He pulled up images on the room's main display, photographs of destroyed cities from Earth's various wars, burned buildings, empty streets, and rubble where homes once stood. This is what human warfare looks like at its worst. Entire cities reduced to broken rubble and ash, millions of people dead, critical infrastructure destroyed, economies ruined, And for what ultimate benefit? Territory we could not use because we had poisoned it with radiation or chemicals. Resources we had spent destroying in the fighting? We learned through bitter experience that winning through violence often means losing everything else that actually matters. Chancellor Okonkwo stood, her presence commanding immediate attention from everyone in the room. She was tall and spoke with natural authority earned through decades of leadership. Counselor Thrain, you are asking the wrong question entirely. You keep asking if humans are dangerous. We have already confirmed multiple times that yes, we are dangerous. The right question, the only question that actually matters, is this: what do humans want? And I can answer that question clearly and simply. We want to matter in the universe. We want to contribute something meaningful. We want to explore new worlds, discover new knowledge, and build things of lasting value. We want our children and their children to inherit a galaxy that is richer, safer, and more wonderful than the one we found. She smiled warmly and genuinely. Humans are apex predators, this is true and undeniable. But do you know what apex predators do when they are not actively hunting for food? They play. They explore their environment. They create and build things. They form social bonds. Take away the desperate need to hunt for survival, and humans become artists, scientists, philosophers, teachers, and dreamers. We have spent the last 100 years proving to ourselves that we can be much more than our violent evolutionary past. Now let us prove it to the wider galaxy. Counselor Thrain consulted quietly with his advisors for several long minutes. The whispered conversation in the clicking Valorian language went back and forth with obvious disagreement and debate. Finally, Thrain turned back to face the humans with what seemed like a decision made. The Valorian Empire is prepared to offer Earth full membership status with all associated rights and responsibilities, Thrain announced formally. However, this offer comes with one significant condition that we believe will benefit both our peoples. We want humans serving in our peacekeeping and security forces. Surprised glances passed between the human delegates. This was not what they had expected to hear. Peacekeeping? Kate Morrison asked carefully, wanting to make sure she understood correctly. Yes, specifically peacekeeping and security, Thrain explained. The Valorian Empire is vast, spanning great distances. Most member species are peaceful by nature and temperament, but conflicts do arise occasionally. Pirates attack merchant ships. Raiders strike isolated colonies. Territorial disputes escalate into violence. We maintain order and enforce laws, but our security forces are designed primarily for defense and deterrence. They are not hunters by nature or training. If humans truly are apex predators who consciously chose civilization and restraint, then we want that controlled aggression protecting our borders and maintaining peace, not potentially threatening our stability. President Claire Bennett smiled slowly as understanding dawned. You want to turn humanity's predatory nature into a protective force for the Empire? Exactly correct, Thrain confirmed. You track tirelessly and never give up. You adapt quickly to new situations. You imagine your opponent's strategies before they implement them. You understand both predation and restraint from direct experience. These are extremely valuable traits for security and peacekeeping forces. Work with us in this capacity, and humanity will have full access to Valorian technology, vast trade networks, and thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. In return, the Empire gains peacekeepers who understand both how to hunt and why not to. Carlos Mendoza stood to respond on behalf of Earth's government. Counselor, humanity accepts this offer with gratitude, but I want to be absolutely clear about something important.